I want to pass on what I learned from food. Food is not only feeding yourself, but it's an intimate act if you think about it. When you're cooking for someone else, it's an act of love.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Keeping it simple and showing restraint are the hallmark of a mature chef, but many cuisines of the world have this as their foundation, especially Italian, which is renowned for the use of simple combinations to create wonderful dishes. How do you maintain that ethos, but ensure dishes and the experience keep people coming back? Alessandro Tintori is the chef and co-owner of Sosta Ristorante in North Melbourne. Alessandro, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm really good. It's great to get you on the show. You're part of a bit of an institution there in North Melbourne. How are things at the moment?
Oh, next question, let's say. No, it's obviously it's never easy to take over such of, big institution with these names behind. And, but we had the confidence that we can do a very good job. Obviously, taking over restaurants in these tough times, we all knows what's going on with the interest rates and the wave of closing. It's always challenging, but we keep our heads up and we are very positive about it.
The challenging times, have they had an impact on your approach and sort of what you're doing to start with at the restaurant?
Yes, definitely. Well, I was coming from a more refined and modern cuisine, but it's not what I wanted to do anymore. I was feeling like taking sort of a break from so much, not finesse, but this kind of cuisine. I want to go back on more like almost traditional flavor, if you want to say, like something more related to my roots, to where I come from and everything. So it was just felt natural to putting down a slightly different menu with less garnish, less finesse on the plates, but still with very solid flavors and still good looking plates.
Tell us a little bit about the offering that you've introduced there and how you've changed it in the way that you just sort of mentioned.
So the change from Sosta is always, before we took over, it was more of a classic Italian restaurant, more traditional. What I wanted to bring with my food, it was an approach, a bit of a modern approach to Italian food, but with local produce. My catchphrase when we opened was like, I want to treat Australia as a region of Italy, because I want to bring the same philosophy that's we're doing in our regional food in Australia, because Australia doesn't lack of an amazing produces. It's just incredible, the quality that is here, and sometimes just not being used the way they should have. So that's what I want to do. Plus, I start to find a lot of native ingredients, and I start to be very interested of, and they're working beautifully with Italian food. So I start to adding here and there a bit of native produce. And I think it's working very well.
Is there a dish or two that you could tell us about that sort of exemplifies this approach that you have there at Sosta?
Yes, one dish that went very wild this summer, it was the zucchini flower. It was a classic zucchini flower, and traditionally it would be done with ricotta and lemon inside. What I did, instead of using just a simple lemon, I use lemon aspen, which is a native produce from the rainforest. The flavor profile was very similar to the original one, but I use a native produce. I thought about it. Look, if my grandmother would have grew up in Australia, she would probably use a lemon aspen instead of lemon to make her best zucchini flower. So that's what I did. You know what I mean? And then that is the approach. Then I try to talk about it.
Is there some adjusting and adapting to, although the flavors are similar, but to the sort of differences there when you're creating those dishes?
There is a bit of differences. Obviously, the challenge is always try to make the specific produce screams, which is what Italian food normally does. Focusing on one ingredient and make the best out of it. In this case, was try to showing more than the zucchini flower, actually the content. So it was the lemon aspen. So it took us a bit to adjust to to the quantities in the farce. But then at the end of it was I think the most popular dish this summer. We took off simply because zucchini flower goes off season, and my food is strictly attached to season. So I don't want to have silly things like tomatoes in winter or zucchini flowers in winter. So it's not what we're doing.
Well, I want to explore your food and what you're doing at Sosta a little bit later on, but take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and what sort of role did food play for you?
I grew up in the middle of Tuscany, in the heart of Tuscany, between near Lucca, the main town where I was. And I grew up in a little farm, and basically I've been around food all my life, because all my parents, my grandparents were all involved, never in the restaurant industry, but in the food production. My father and my moms are working in butcher shops. They owned one for a while, and then they sold it. My grandfather used to grow his own vegetables, and mostly for us, but sometimes able to selling as well. My grandmother, she always loved her animals, so we always have an animal around the house. And same of my grandfather, he loved to foraging, because that's where I get his passion from. So when it was time of the year, we'll go out for getting porcini mushroom, which is, I don't want to brag about it, but Tuscany is the best porcini mushroom in the world. And, that is a fact. So that's the context that I grew up, and that's for me, it was just natural. Like since I was a kid, I always been around food. Like coming from a rural area where it was not much to do. The screen time was minimum, especially back in the 90s. And, it's not I wasn't coming from a very wealthy family. So it was like after school, it was like, no, after school, just go home, finish your homework, and then, stay home with my grandparents until my parents come back from work, which was often late. So, like cooking was a game for me, like following my grandma's routine, parting of feeding everyone from the animals to the families, was always next to her. And that's where I started, like, for me, it was a game, like playing with food. That's what it was. And then it develops.
Take us back to sort of Tuscany and the farm growing up. Do you have any stories of dishes or feasts from the family that you can share with us?
Well, there is a fair bit to say. Like was a rural area. We were growing up. I grew up with in this large family. We were like 8 in the household, 8 people. And around the table was what everything was happening all the time. In the dining room, because food is part of our culture, and we were producing our own food. So I guess like the most iconic times we were having is always the Sunday lunch, which is always was an animal from the farm. Could be a rabbit, could be a chicken, it could be a quails or pigeons, whatever. We were growing the goats, and that's was changing. It wasn't a specific dish that we were loving. It was just it was changing through the year. It was the act of being all together as a family. That's it was beautiful. We always had fruit plants. Grow up all our own vegetables, and that way you see the season changing through the years, and it's fascinating. Seriously, it's like you understand how food needs times, and you need to follow the processes. It's not food following you, but it's you that should follow the food. When it comes to summers, you got the tomatoes, the zucchinis, and you move into autumns, which is, I always say, is my favorite season, because it's the most rewarding, I would say, because after the hard work you did all the summer, you start to tick all the boxes. So you got your passata ready, you start to making the wine for the next season, you got the olive to squeeze and turn it into oils, and then some of the best fruits come along. You got the chestnut, you got the end of summer figs are the best, and then you're starting the foraging season. So you're getting all the porcini I was talking about it, and then the hunting season opens. And my grandfather used to like hunting a lot. So when he was out hunting, he always come back with a wild boar or a venison, and that's and that's turned into a feast with the neighborhoods. And it's it's what we were doing, and for me it was just normal. It was the way of life back there, and that's what I was trying to bring back here. And that's why I'm focusing so much on small suppliers, small hunters, small producer that try to bring back what I'm doing.
When did you first sort of take your steps into the industry and to become a chef? What was that like for you?
For me, it was a bit of a challenge. I've always been a bit of I would say like someone would say a shy kid, but it was a bit more than that. So I got a bit of what do you call it, social anxiety problem. Okay, so I never liked, being in groups. So even at school, I always been, I used to stumble as well. That's it. Thanks God, it's finished. But for me, it was a challenge. So in Italy, back in the 90s, we were able to start to work as a summer job, at least when we were 15 years old. And my auntie, she used to work in these massive bakeries. She offered to find me a job in there to spend my summer there so I can make, some of my own money. Because for me, making my own money means freedom, freedom to buy the things that I wanted. Or, when you're a teenager, you got something, stuff that you want to buy, and my parents wouldn't buy for me. So I said, I want to start. I want to start my summer jobs, and she offered me to start to work in this bakery. So I started at the first days, and I found out months after that the owner didn't want to say her no because she was a big friend, but didn't need anyone. So what they did is to put me in a position where, I will give up. So what I did, I spent most of the summer next to the ovens. To getting the bread out of these big combi ovens, and I was swearing I was like, I'm not kidding, I would be like 50 degrees. And my first day was traumatizing because I went there with a half-liter bottle and one T-shirt, and I finished the shift and I was drained and drenched. And I was told I was tired as, but I said, I'm not going to give up. I have to prove myself. And, it's the first time. Then I found out that I don't break easy. I don't break easy at all. So I went back the day after with 3 T-shirts and 3 liters of water with me, and and I kept doing that relentlessly all summer. I kept doing it to the point where, because I wanted to be, I wanted to be part of something. I want to be part of a team. And by the end of the summer, I think the owners saw me that I lost a massive amount of weight, like a lot of weight. I lost it, and somebody I think was worried and moved me to the packaging area. With the ladies, pretty much like the people, like my moms and older ladies, and actually they actually broke me, to be honest. Like all the chip chat they were putting up together and all the questions, and I didn't want to answer. So yes, it wasn't a 60 degree summer. Then he broke me. It was a bunch of ladies ask me their own question. Then it just kept my anxiety growing, and I finished the summer and never want to go back. That's funny.
That is amazing. Tell us about the first couple of years, working in the industry. What were the really sort of important people and venues that you worked at?
Okay, so again, the summer after, I didn't want to go back to the bakery, and I found job as a dishy in this high-end hotel, amazing hotel, big kitchens. And I felt in love immediately of the things. I felt in love of the discipline of the chefs, the organized chaos that it was in there. Like everyone was running around like crazies and yelling, yes, chef, but everyone knows what he was doing. It was like one team, one dream. I really loved it. The chef was old school, tough guy, but fair, And as soon as I finished school, because I've been there for a couple of years when I was 16 and 17 as a dishy, and start to do the basic chore in the kitchen, cleaning onions, washing this, washing that. And at the end of school, I didn't want to go to uni, and I went to ask to the chef Alvaro if will take me for an apprenticeship, and he said, "Okay, you come back as a dish, and then I'll teach you something." And then I started to work there, and I loved it. It was a tough work. It was to work all school hours, like from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning to midnight at night, double shift every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. I was come back home tired, exhausted, sometimes very often actually defeated because you get yelled, you got abused, like verbally, like, what are you doing? This is not right, because everything I was doing was wrong, pretty much. Everything I was doing was wrong. But again, I don't break easy, and I want to prove myself. So I kept going back until, I start to feel part of the team, until I start to do the right things as well. And I found out in a lot of things that I shouldn't have known. I knew it. Like I was boning small animals because I was doing in the farm. So I knew how to bone down a pig, so cut down a chicken or things like that. So as soon as they put a knife in my hands, I was actually able to do a bit better. So that's his, and that's how we went. And then at one moment I panicked because they offered me a full-time jobs. And in Italy, especially where I'm from, a full-time jobs, it means, you can settle down. You got like your salary every week. You can ask, for money in the bank to buy a car or buy a house or whatever, like you're settling down. And I was like, oh my God, 19. And that's when I don't want to settle now. I don't want to settle now. And then I just ran to London. I ran to UK. That's what happened. I had like a panic attack, an anxiety, I guess. And I ran to UK. And that's it. And I started to work in a Michelin stars restaurant there because it's what I wanted to do it. I remember that back in the days, during my apprenticeship there, this was only 1 year. I was hanging on like with all my life with a book from Ferran Adrià. Was One Day I'll Bully, and I was in love with this, like modern cuisine, like all this verification, all the hair, all the bubbles that was going around. I was like, oh my God, this is Kitchen Lab. I love it. So when I went to London, I tried to apply on these high-end restaurants. Eventually, I got in one that wasn't as good as El Bulli, of course, because nothing is good as El Bulli, but was pretty good.
Well, what was your time like in London? What did you take from the experiences you had?
Look, when we look back and talking with the chef of my generation that we had the same experience, we always come down to the same conclusion. In Italy, you learn how to cook, but in London, you learn how to work. This is the truth. It's a completely different ball games. Like if you think about the 3 biggest cities in the world, like in the Western world, to learn how to work, you're thinking about Paris, you're talking about London, you're talking about New York. These are 3 cities. Like you're talking about massive restaurants, big Michelin stars, big teams, a lot of hours, and a lot of smart operation. Like if you know how to cook at one point, it doesn't matter anymore. If you cannot operate and work into a team, you're completely useless. And that's what I have to learn from scratch. And again, as is all the cliche that you're hearing from those big restaurants, it's just a lot of hours, a lot of abusing, a lot of everything, a lot of, you go home defeated again. But somehow I used to love it. So I kept going back and learn more. For me, it was just, learning, like to prove that I was better than the guy next to me. I was better than the guy who was above me, and I want to go over him. And after a year of doing these things, there was a big restaurants opening up. I don't want to mention the names just because I've been so mistreated in there that I don't want to give there any publicity, okay? But the year the opening, it was 2008 when I was in there. And the restaurant, within 6 months, they opened again to Michelin stars. After 9 months that I was in there, I was the only person left from the opening team, me and the head chef, and that's it. I was the only survivor because it was ruthless, seriously ruthless. When the head chef finished the experience there and went back to the head base, I said, okay, I'm done in here and I'll go somewhere else. And so at the time, there was a lot of friends who were moving to Australia because it was a cool place to go, and that's how I ended up in Australia with a working holiday 12 years ago.
What was it like for you? Were you surprised by Australia when you came here?
It was, I'll tell you the truth. I first moved to Sydney and I didn't like it at all. I couldn't make any connection with people. I just, it wasn't my city. You know what I mean? I didn't like that. I ended up working for this little restaurant because I said, oh, I want a bit of, I want to chill out for a bit. Working holiday. I want to work an holiday. So it turned out to be everything but that. The chef was a bit of a dick, very abusive, and the worst parts, he couldn't cook at all. So it was just a dickhead. Sorry for the language. So I had a fight with him, and I said, you know what, moving to Melbourne, see if Melbourne is better. I don't know, like otherwise I just go back to Europe and that's it. And I fell in love with Melbourne immediately. I found work overnight pretty much, and I started to find like friends, people I was able to connect with, start to having like a normal life out of it, not just work, home, be sad and go, just a good life. So I was very, very sad when my working holiday finished because I didn't want to do any farm work. Because I thought I spend all my life in a farm. I don't want to work in somewhere else farm. It's not me. I ran away from one. I'm not gonna end up in another one. So I came back to Italy after that. And after a year in Italy, I was working in a local restaurant where I was. I got called back from Melbourne and said, look, they were doing sponsorship. They would be more than happy to sponsor me, and that's how I came back. That's how I came back there.
Where did you work in Melbourne in that sort of beginning time?
I don't. To be honest, they screw me over, so I rather don't say it. It was a high-end. I was a high-end. I know it's like a lot of. Yeah. Anyway, it was a high-end restaurant in Flinders Lanes. It was having a hat. It was, but unfortunately, when instead of pay the taxes, you putting up your nose. That's what happened. The restaurant shut down, and I found out that I was losing my job and my visa, with a little note on the changing room doors a week away. So after that, I wasn't by myself at the time. I was with my partner, which is still my current partner, and it's like, look, now it's not all about me. It's all about me and her. So I need to find something else. So I started to send resumes around, few trials. I work here and there, but I wasn't happy until I ended up in Grossi Florentino.
Tell us about that experience of working at Grossi and with Guy. What sort of impact did that have on you?
Well, that was a massive change for me. It was massive because I was 24 at the time. I was about to turn 25. I started to work there. I work around all the venues, and then the chef at Ombra. Ombra was just open at the time. It was 2000. I can't even remember. 2014 probably. We just open. I was 24, and the chef resigned. He was tired. And Ombra was back in the day was just open a little wine bar with just 3 pizzas and few little snacks, and that's it. And Guy put me in there as a head chef. It was my first head chef experience, and I was already being a sous chef, but it's a big step, right? Sous chef to a head chef to a restaurant, and at the beginning, I take like a punishment. It's like, why am I in here? Like what I have to do in here? Like I'm not a pizza chef. I'm not doing snacks. Like I'm just serving salumis. Like I took it very bad. Like, but I couldn't leave because I wasn't sponsored with them. So like, oh, okay, I'll suck it up and I'll do what I'm doing. And after a while, Guy, I start to gain his trust, because Guy is a very fair man, but he's a tough guy, and it takes a while to gain his trust. But once you do, you can start to play with your food a little bit more, as long you stay with the frame of the restaurant concept, of course. And I said, I'm going to start to push a bit for like just to have a bit of fun. Yeah. So we start to working more on the pizza, like on slow fermentation dough. So we're up to for 8 hours. Start to working on local flour rather than the plain imported from Italy. We start to making our own salumi. We start to do our own pickles. We start to do everything. So basically at one point before I finished my experience in there, we're making everything in the house, but the actual cheese, from the passata, from everything. So So this was a big challenge for me, because I turned the restaurant, the way that I want a restaurant to run, like everything fresh from scratch, and people were super happy about it, and the team was happy, and I think Guy was super happy about it. But once I've been there for 3 years. Once I gained my PR, and I felt like it was for me time to move on, go back on what I like to do, a bit more fine dinings. But it was a very nice break, I have to say. I learned a lot more than I thought.
You spent a lot of time at Il Baccaro as well. What was that like?
That was fantastic. Amazing 6 years. It was a completely different experience. Where I started there again after Ombra. I was very tired. I just said the good parts of it, but there was also bad sides. When you had chef, you always took over for the people that doesn't show up to work and things. So I wasn't up to doing a lot of hours. So I was like, I want to take a little breaks. I will just send some resume, maybe sharing, starting again as a chef de Paris, or even like just like a junior sous chef, something easy, yeah. And I started to trials around. And then when I arrived to Baccaro, I saw the kitchen was very small, and I kind of liked it, because again, with my anxiety, being a small space is better than being a big space with a lot of people. So I kind of liked being like in a small team, like where I was in Ombra. The food was good, and Dave was fantastic, because he just let me play with the food and I wanted it. So I experienced, and I thought it would be there for just 3 to 6 months, and end up to be for 6 years, and end up to be the head chef of the restaurants. It was excellent. It made me grow up a lot, as my personal creativity, which is for the first time, I've been let to do almost whatever I wanted, obviously within the frame of the restaurants, but was much more freely and creative compared to other restaurants where I've been, where the head chef or the executive chef was very strict. That is the food, that's what you have to do, and that's it. Which is not. Baccarat was like, they liked the way I was cooking. At the end of it, I was just like doing all the menu, like I'll be able to scratch down, I want this and that. I'll talk to the supplier, just like a proper role. And I have to say, I always run the restaurants from other people the way I will run mine, exactly the same, because I think there is, I always take pleasure of what I'm doing, and I take pleasure if I do it at my best. So I will never, cut down corners on someone else because I wouldn't do to my place. So I think that's what they saw in me as well at Baccarat. Like I was really, really caring on the team, on the foods and everything. And that's why they left me so much freedom on the place.
Tell us about owning your own venue and the Sosta opportunity. How did that all come about?
So that was a bit of a coincidence, to be honest. It was a while I was thinking to start, my own things, because at the end of it, for a chef, it's always a bit of a dream owning your own place. You know what I mean? I came across a few friends in commons with Frank, which is my current business partner, and he was looking at a place to invest some money and doing some admin. I was looking for a kitchen to, a place to buy with my little savings, and while we're looking for a venue we come across, he was friends with the previous owner of Sosta, and he said it was up to selling. So instead of goes on the market, he sell it straight to us with everything inside, and that's how we started. We just closed down the door. We started with a quick renovations. We kept the only things, then it stayed the same. It was the name of Sosta, and everything else is different. So different food approach, is different dining room. It's everything's like a new restaurant pretty much, and that's how we started. But from day one, we always struggled with the problem that everyone has after COVID, finding good stuff, managing wages. That's the normal game. Get people through the door sometimes as well, because North Melbourne, it can be a tricky suburb sometimes.
Did you have challenges sort of changing the model of the restaurant so much, given that the regulars would have known the previous incarnation of the restaurant?
Yes, that is something that we faced at the very, very first, probably couple of months. It was to getting the regulars, and they would find a different place, so didn't know what to expect. And so we had the first couple of months a very big change of crowds. Like some of the regular customers kept going because they see the effort that we're putting on the restaurants and the food, and someone just simply didn't like it because they were expecting something different. But at the same time, we got a lot of people coming that were never been in the restaurant, so they used to be whole customers and they never came back because they didn't like it. So we are in the process of building up a new clientele, and it seems like it's working.
You mentioned a bit earlier about how important small producers are to you. Do you have a couple that you work closely with that you can tell us about?
Oh, I try to work only with small producer, just because I think that farm to table, it's the best way to go now. I like to get whole animals, to respect the whole things. I don't like when you order just a parts of the animal. I like to get the whole things and treating it down from the shoulder, from the fillets to the actual interior parts, because in 2024, eating meat or fish has a big impact on our planet. So if we do it, we have to do it properly. You know what I mean? You have to respect the animal and all. Saying that, I try to source all the meats from small farmers. For example, the pigs that coming from Judy from Western Plain. I've been working with her for years, and her sustainable farming. It's a remarkable work. I get my eggs from Tom's paddock He's a guy that's working with regenerative farming with his chicken, and it's the closest things they remind me to my grandmother eggs, because they're all different sizes and shapes, but the flavor is just there. Working with those eggs actually forced me to change the recipe, because the content of the eggs are so high that I don't need as much as yolk as I would normally do. So I put more whole eggs. In that way, I'm wasting less egg whites. So it's all come together when you start to work in a certain way. Same story for the goats. I've been working with Chris for many years, since back at home, for example, and I was using always his goat, because it's just better. Like the normal supply, the normal goat that I found in the market doesn't taste as good. I found this guy through friends. He's hunting feral deer in the hotaways, and he does help the environment, because the deer in the hotaways have no natural antagonists, so they tend to overpopulating and destroying the parks. So what he does is, it sounds a bit dramatic, but yes, he does shoot to order. So basically, I order. I know, but if you think about it, it is a bit dramatic, but it's the best way to hunt, because he knows what he hunts. He goes straight to a restaurant and it's going to be used, unlikely other big supplier that's end up with them food in supermarket shelf, and way too often they go wasted. So in this way, you help in the environment, and at the same time, you creating no wastage. I think is the most human way to source certain things. And I could keep going on, because I'm working with organic farms as well. I started to recently work with these guys called Dog Creeks, and they're doing like all old school Italian vegetables and leaves. Like they got 4 different kind of radicchios, which is impossible to find here in Australia. It's like, wow, I was amazed of the things they have and the small production they're doing. So I'm spending hours and hours on researching for new supplier, and creating a bond with these people. And then it's go over only the work environment. It's on a personal level. Sometimes we're calling any time of the day. So it doesn't matter. You're creating connections in that way.
You mentioned that your approach is to treat Australia like a region of Italy. Tell us a little bit about that, and sort of what your approach is with the food.
This is the philosophy that I try to pass on my staff, and also the customer. So the breaking line is in Italy, in every region, but specifically the way that I'm grow up in a little town, we're producing everything, is unthinkable of getting anything that is not local, simply because the local is cheaper and local is better quality. It's unthinkable of getting pigs from Germany when you got a beautiful pigs locally, and this is extend to any area. All the cheeses, it's unthinkable to take a piece of cheeses from Austria when I got the local Parmigiano. And this is what I'm trying to achieve here in Australia. I don't find productive putting a piece of prosciutto, like a piece of pigs, on a airplane and ship it over on the other side of the world, with all the, when I can get a fantastic local pigs from Ballarat, and I tell you what, the quality of cured meats in the last few years here has become dramatically high. I get some of the capocollo that I get in here, some of the salumi that I get in here. There is no difference of what I get in back home. It's remarkably high. So what's the point of, putting something on an airplane and ship over here? Why I have to use the flowers from Italy when I got some amazing local flour here? Or it's got in that extension. I don't want to have a salmon from the north of Sweden when I can get a local Tassie salmons. You know what I mean? It's more. It makes more sense to me. So that's why. So I want to bring the same approach that we're doing with the local food in Italy, which is everything coming from your backyard, everything comes from your neighborhood, everything comes from within 50 kilometers from where you're living. I want to do the same approach here. If this approach is involved saltbush, if this approach involved desert lime, fingers limes, rainforest cherries, that's what I got to put on my plates. There is no point of me putting caviar from Russia, where I got the local caviar from Yarra Valley. That's what I'm doing.
Well, you're doing some amazing things, transforming a bit of a legendary venue in Melbourne into your own. What do you love about what you do?
Oh, I love passing on my stuff. my idea of food and my experiences. I always try to explain them that's what we're doing, and that's why I open a small restaurants with a small staff. I want to pass on what I learned from food. Food is not only feeding yourself, but it's an intimate act. If you think about it, when you're cooking for someone else, it's pretty much an act of love. Like the first time that you get feed from your mom, and that is an act of love that she's passing on you. And this is the things I'm doing when I'm cooking for someone. It's an intimate act. It's an act of love that you do. It's not only work. If I want to be just food, just work, I will, be in a fast food. But that's not what I'm doing. Like everything we're putting on the plates is being treated from scratch to the very, very hands, and treated with respect, with the specific ideas that has no wastage and get the best out of it. So that's what I like most out of it. It's doing the actual cooking and displaying to the guys that I'm training. It's what we're doing, and I think it's working because the staff that I have, they like working with me. And since the day one that we opened 6 months ago, I still have exactly the same staff in the kitchen. They're not intending to leave. So I think it's working.
Well, it's an absolute honor to hear your story today, Alessandro, and can't wait to see what you do with Sosta moving forward. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you very much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.